Good stuff. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another special health focus Tai Chi and Qigong class. So today we are continuing our work on the 24 international competition simplified form. I was thinking, did I say that in the right order? Doesn't matter. We're working on the 24 form. So let's salute, Xie San Hao, and we open our stance and just begin to gently roll around into the four corners. Good. And allow your body to take the wheel. Let the mind just be in the passenger seat and observe. Now I've set up to record with my other recording device to get a better quality. But it's just the technology is so new to me, it takes too long, it's too fiddly. So it's set up, but it's not recording. Sorry, but I will get there. It'll take me time to do this. Good, so keep going, please. While I do a little fidget here, I've lost you on the screen. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we've actually lost. Someone's fallen out of the session. Hopefully they'll get back in. Good. Okay, so let's change direction. So before we started the recording, we were talking about essential oils. Actually, in one of the venues that I teach in, they have a food bank, and also Marks and Spencer's donate any of their yesterday's flowers. So anything that's on the wilt or about to wilt, they hand over. And some of them, you know, they're pretty lovely. They're still pretty fresh. So I brought a bunch of flowers home, and they're full of eucalyptus. They've used eucalyptus leaves as the sort of filler. That's lovely. It fills the room with this beautiful scent that opens up the airways. It feels very fresh. Okay, so let's bend the knees a little bit, and we just do a little rowing the boat action, coming in and releasing. Good. And much as essential oils are great, in general principles, I think if you can get something from source fresh, that's even better, much better, because it has that vitality, that life force about it, that something that has been distilled and put in a bottle, not so much. It still has it, but something that's basically still alive. It's a cut flower in water. It's still alive, and it's sharing its life force with the room, which is really rather beautiful. Of course, if you can get it so that it's not a cut flower and it's still a plant with roots and into the earth or soil, even better. So it's not sort of slowly dying, it's actually just sharing its space with you and giving off any lovely essential oils and perfume at the same time. Good. Let's come back into center, and we do a little bounce and a wee rotation, and you just go as big or as small as you like, so you can keep it right the way down if you prefer. Good, and let's change direction. Very good. So all of those healing properties that you read about if you look at essential oil books, let's relax down, they're all intrinsically in the plant as it's alive. And as I say, it's far more likely to be potent if it is alive. Very good, and change direction. So I would encourage you to go out into your garden and into nature and just spend some time with the plants. Just walk by them, gently brush them with your fingertips, or just spend time near them. See if you can get the smells. Now we're in springtime. One at a time, please. There's lots of lovely perfumes and smells if you go for a walk. Even just walking past other people's gardens, you get this bouquet of beautiful fragrances, and maybe some that aren't so nice. Change direction, please. And you'll notice how they instantly have an effect on your system. It might just be that you go, oh, that's lovely. But plants have their own vibration. So each plant will affect you in a different way. Let's come back to center, please. Good. And ease from our stance. We're going to do a little rotation down one leg. Good. And change direction. And a shake out, and on the other side. We've got one of our members in the class who's moving office today, so she won't be with us. And another one who's in a different time zone until our clocks change. So quite a few of you will be taking this video rather than the live session, but it's great to have you. Any way you can join us, that's wonderful. Good. Shaking out, please. Good. And let's open our stance a little bit wider, and we'll do our rolling of the hips. So this isn't just four corners we want to think of. It's the equivalent of doing this, but on the horizontal plane. So one hip forward, then the other, the first hip back, and then the other. Good. And change direction. Strange thing happens when someone drops out of a meeting. It kind of messes up my little pictures of you down the side, so I can only see myself at the moment. I couldn't fix that. So do unmute yourself and tell me if there's anything that you're not getting, or I'm just going to have to go on verbal feedback. Good. Okay, lovely. Let's ease up and shake out, and let's take a leg stretch. So we're going to kick one leg forwards, step down with a little bit of width. We go forwards and back. And breathe. Good. Let's feed the weight back. Keep the front leg straight, gently hinge from the hips. And if you can, pull the toes back. If it's comfortable, you can take hold of the foot. And relax down, feed your weight forwards, up you come, and let's change over. So we kick it out. Step down, make sure you have a little bit of width, and we go forwards and back, and breathe. Sometimes when we're in the live feed, the Zoom session can just collapse on you. If that happens, please feel free to rejoin the class. Don't worry about disturbing us. We want you here. We want you live with us. Good. Feed the weight back, sliding down. And enjoy the stretch. Keep breathing. Good. Pull the toes back, and if you can take hold. Very good. Relax the foot down, feeding the weight forwards, and up you come. Good. Easing from your stance. Oh, okay. So just check your body, see how you feel. You can have a little stretch in any direction. Just do what feels comfortable. Notice what your body wants from you. And then we'll look at our 24 form. Okay, so we have been working through the whole of the 24 form. But I think it was last week, we looked at a bit of silk reeling. So that is repetitive movements of each of the steps of the form. And this can be very, very useful to make us more comfortable with the individual movements. We can play with them a lot, just the simple movements in repetition. And over a period of time, doing that, we learn the mechanism of the movement so that we don't have to even think. When we do a complex move, we're just repeating what we have done so many times. Really rather like when you're learning the alphabet, you just write A, and you keep practicing until you get a nice fluid movement, and you go from doing the script version to doing your own personal version, and that slowly transforms over time to your own handwriting, as opposed to the sort of copper plate or the way that we learn initially. So that's your silk reeling for you. And I think we got as far as grasping bird's tail, Pung Lu Ji An. So let us look at, I'm not sure, did we do single whip? So we'll have a look today at single whip, cloud hands, single whip, and then our kicking section. Okay. So single whip involves the position of the hook, and a hook is made by curling the fingers gently one at a time until you're pinching all the fingers and the thumb in one single point. And we want the wrist to be at the highest point. Now in Chen style, it's quite rounded, which suits me well because I have a bit of arthritis in my hands. But in Yang style, it tends to be a little bit more pointy, a little bit more beaky than the rounded Chen style. So you can extend a little bit more, but honestly, it doesn't matter as long as it's comfortable for you. That's important. Okay, so as I say, you curl into a hook. You don't just close. Do you see the difference? That's closing into a hook. It's okay if you do that, but it lacks a certain finesse, and you're missing a martial expression if you just close. So we want to curl, little finger first, the other fingers follow one at a time into your hook, and we want the wrist to be at the highest point. So that's the definition of a hook. We don't want any little fingers sticking out like you're being very polite drinking tea. We want to keep everything gently tucked in. And the wrist at the highest point, you can see it creates the shape of a hook. So we want to avoid the hand just being straight compared to the forearm, and we want to avoid it being pulled back, which I have seen. You know, we all do weird and wonderful things when we're learning how to do Tai Chi in the first place, but we want the wrist at the highest point. And if you can physically, comfortably, we want the hook to sit about the level of your shoulder. Please avoid extending it way up high. It's not a high stance. It is about level with the shoulder. Okay, so we're going to do single whip, just single whip a couple of times. We discussed yesterday, if you had arthritis or sore shoulders, and to do an extension hurts the shoulders, what do? You don't do the extension. Instead, you would do what you can of an extension, so that instead of that. And in order to balance it, if you're doing a smaller extension with the arms, that means that when you take a step, you take a smaller step. So that means that you're in balance. And as hopefully you can see there, my hands are above my feet, my elbows are above my knees, and my shoulders are above my hips. So that's correct. Whereas if you do take a big stance, we go a bit smaller, and then we go bigger, then I have to extend a lot more in order to keep my hand above my foot. So then as I open, oh, that's too much for me, so I can fix the back foot and that makes it more comfortable. But do you see how big I have to extend in order to have hands above feet, shoulders above hips, and elbows above knees? So Tai Chi is about listening to your body and doing what comes natural, what feels good. If it doesn't feel natural or good, you won't be able to express the strength. So we need structure, comfort, and then we get strength. Later on down the line, we practice another aspect of Tai Chi, which is called the difficult path, which is designed literally to make us uncomfortable, to put us in compromising positions so that we can learn how to relax and cope with those positions and therefore make them more comfortable again. So start with comfort and then later on you can build yourself up to discomfort to practice it so that you can learn to relax through it and make that comfortable as well. Okay, so single whip. I'll do it facing you first. So we want to have, I'm going to show you the back view first and then we'll do it together. I'll face you for a second. So you've just done your your apparent, your grasping bird's tail. We're going to feed the weight back and extend. Bring the right hand down, the right toes in, change the arms, change the weight, and turn and make a hook. So the hook, that's the beginning of single whip. Then we get smaller, bigger, turn, and expand. Okay, now I was thinking, right, let's do single whip, but actually a part that people really struggle with is the little transition between grasping bird's tail and single whip, because we tend not to look at it, it's just a transition. So let's look at the transition. I'm going to do it facing you and I'm going to do it mirrored first. So just have a wee watch, have a wee relax for a second and watch. And then I'll do it with you with my back to you and we'll all do the same thing. But sometimes you can pick up information that you weren't aware of if you see the front view and mirrored. Okay, so I might do it front view mirrored and then I might actually do front view but the normal way. Because for some folks, mirrored just as confusing as anything. So just watch me please. So this is the mirrored version. We feed the weight back, drop the hand or lower the hand, turn the toe in, change arms, change weight, turn, open the hand and curl into a hook as you gather in. Everything smaller, everything bigger, and this is your single whip. Turn and expand. Okay? So now I'm going to show you the same move, but this time not mirrored. Front view, but not mirrored. Okay, so you've done your grasping bird's tail. Right side in, change arms, change weight, turn, open, and hook. And that takes us into single whip. Okay, so let's do it together a couple of times and see where we go. I just want to check that I'm not actually just teaching to thin air because I can't. Oh yes, I'm all right. You're all here, are you? You're all here, it's just I can't see you. That's all right. Okay, good. Okay, so now let's do the transition. I'm going to do back view and we'll just do it a few times so it's not quite silk reeling because we're going to have to stop and start between, but the essence of silk reel, repetitive, one little section at a time. So we're going to face our right side and press. Ready? We feed the weight back, extend the arms. Right toe in, right hand down. Change arms, change weight, turn, open the hand, curl into hook as you gather left. Everything smaller, everything bigger, but you decide how big. Now turn, opening the hand, foot down, relax to center. Decide, are you too big or too small, or does it matter? If you're too big in your stance, turn the toe in as you extend. If you were too small in the stance, you could push your heel back and relax. Good. Let's do it again. A little bit more action, a little less conversation. Ready? And good. Let's do it 5 times. Help me count. Ready? Now, if it's hurting, try smaller. Okay? Don't keep hurting yourself. Make it smaller. If it hurts, even when it's small, then stop, sit down, watch. All right, ready? And 1. Good. And again. And 2. And again. Relax to center. And 3. And 4. Notice that we're not going into bow stance, we're going into a hybrid. So you can still see my back because my body is facing the corner. My hand and foot are pointing directly to the side. My arm is extending to 135 degrees. So it's not at 90 degrees and it's certainly not 180 degrees. It's 90 plus 45, 135 degrees. If it's comfortable, it's right. Now, okay, if you have chronic pain no matter what, then you may be doing it perfectly correctly and it'll still hurt. However, if you're in pain, you need to adapt the practice until it hurts less, at least. So there's a fine line there. Ready? I think that was number 4, so let's do number 5. Ready? And 2. Good. And rest. Lovely. So hopefully, even if you knew what you were doing, now it's starting to unravel a little bit into more intuitive, more opening the cracks up so that you can see where there's room for improvement. For most students, I would say, if they're getting the choreography right, great, but it tends to be a bit empty in practice. So what I mean by that is they're lacking pung. Pung means the expansion, the natural expansion of energy flowing. And I've done it myself. I remember a master over in China saying, no, it needs to be more full. And it can be the difference between, I'll do that move, shall I? I'll show you that move. So I'm going to show you it incorrectly first, and then I'll show you the way I'd like to see it more. I'll try not to exaggerate, which is easy done. But incorrect, done. Okay. Now wait till you see the YouTube will pick that moment to capture that picture and suggest it as the cover page for the YouTube video. That was incorrect. I don't know, could you see it, but it was lacking pung. And actually, because it lacked pung, it lacked a lot of the connection between center and arms. Because pung is a kind of a fullness that creates more of the connectivity that we're looking for within the frame. So if you don't have pung, you can move center and everything doesn't necessarily feel like going with center because it's not connected. Think of it like floppy celery. You know, if you've got nice fresh celery, it's firm and strong, and if you move one bit of it, everything moves with. But if it's been in the fridge for a while and it's gone all kind of floppy and limp, then you go to move it and you can move one end and the other end barely moves. So that's what I just showed you. That's lacking pung. Now, pung does not mean artificially kind of puffing yourself up. No, it's more like you let the floodgates open and let the energy swell the body into a more open position. So it is not doing this, you know, it's not that. It's more feel to the fingertips, lengthen to the fingertips, and you get a buoyancy that naturally opens things up. So watch, I'll do it more correctly. I'll do my best to do it well this time. I'd actually like to show you that from the front as well. So it means that everything is more full, more round, more vibrant. It looks maybe like you're exaggerating things, but actually we just want more fullness. So it's the difference between an actor standing on stage and saying the words of their soliloquy or their monologue or whatever, or them standing and delivering the words the way they're meant to be delivered. So we can kind of just do our Tai Chi by rote, and actually that's not Tai Chi. It needs to be delivered. You need to express the energy and not just move your body into various positions. So watch please one more time and I'll show you how my best effort is to express that pung, that buoyancy and fullness that we're looking for at all times. And if you are in pain, I would still recommend that you feel for the buoyancy, that you encourage the buoyancy, because if you don't have it, you're collapsed, you're going to waste energy because it's actually harder to go through the movements if you're using your muscles rather than using your chi. And on top of that, it will hurt more because the pung gives your system a cushion and a feeling of like traction. Everything is a little bit away from everything else. Watch one more time, please. Okay, so that's with pung, a feeling of expansion and buoyancy without just kind of making your moves bigger. You want to relax and let it flow. Think of it performing it and letting it pour out of you rather than just... See what I mean? You see the difference? Don't plonk into position. Expand, release, but not by deliberately pushing your body out, but relaxing and letting it fill. Something to play with. It's something that will come with time. If you want to practice Pung, if you want to practice getting the feeling of it, I would recommend Wuji. Just stand, let your arms dangle, breathe, and then lengthen into your fingers, press your fingers down slightly and breathe into your fingers, listen to your fingers, keep relaxing your body, keep listening to your fingers, and then notice that your hands have bounced away from your body. That is Pung. It's not that you're carrying your arms, it's not that you're holding them, it's not that you're trying to expand your cells within your body, none of that. But when you are engaging to the tips of the fingers and breathing into that sensation, Pung arrives. Good, okay, so that's single whip. Now let's have a look at our cloud hands. Now I think last week, yes, we did single whip, cloud hand, single whip as the sandwich. So today I'd like to do a little bit of the cloud hands silk reeling on its own. So for Yang style, let's go into our hug position. We have opposite the throat, opposite the belly, and we're going to turn. And as we turn, the top hand opens into wave. And now we have the two lifts, you could call it, or using a pulley system. As you press one hand down, the other floats up. And you go back into your hug position, both palms facing in, turn, and as you turn, the top hand opens, and we repeat. So we press down and float up, go back into hug, and turn, open, press down and float up, and turn. Again, you want to have this feeling of roundness, of Pung. Think of embracing someone who's quite big and quite full, and you're trying to stretch around them and can't quite reach. That's the feeling that will induce Pung. Don't strain, but gently wrap. Keep breathing. And again, if it hurts to do this, if you have a condition that's getting in the way, then just, if it's an arm issue, just leave the arms down and see if you can turn in your waist and visualize the arm movement. What it would feel like if you were doing it perfectly and without pain. Good. We want the body to remain absolutely upright. So the waist turns, but the body stays straight. Good. And you might find with this one that you get a lot of energy in the hands. Very good, and rest. Well done, take a breath. Now, silk reeling, actually in this instance, you could go back to single hand silk reeling, and it's very useful to do that because a lot of folks struggle with the two hands together. However, from the point of view of coordination, I think it's good to practice with both hands together. But let's strip it back and we'll do single hand and single hand stepping. So you may or may not have noticed, but our weight isn't just sat in the middle as we do this. As you turn, if you just leave your arms out, please, and turn to one side, even to the corner, do you notice that your weight has shifted? If you just turn your waist, it shifts your weight. And you may experience the yin version or the yang version, and neither is right nor wrong. They're just two different possible outcomes. One of them is that as you turn, it will fill the leg that you're turning towards. That's probably the most common outcome if you're just playing with it and seeing where does the weight go. And in cloud hands, that's what we want, that when you turn to one side, the weight naturally goes into that side more. You're not actually deliberately shifting your weight, it just happens. Because you're turning your waist, it fills the foot that's in front of you. So that's one possible outcome, but there is another possible outcome that we experience sometimes, maybe more in Chen style, whereas you turn to one side, the weight goes into the back foot, and turn to the other side, the weight goes into the back foot. And of course we can guide the outcome, so we can do that. If we want that to happen, just with a little thought, that's all it takes. The body does the rest. So that is another possible outcome, that we can turn the waist and it fills the back foot and it allows the front foot to open or to release. So neither is right nor wrong. They're just possible outcomes of turning the waist. But in this scenario, we want it to be the front leg that fills. Okay, so that happens even if you're not stepping. It should happen. Doing silk reeling in cloud hands, we should not be 50-50 and just staying there. Actually, it'd be very difficult to force the body to be 50-50. It's just an outcome that emerges when we do the work. If you're doing it properly, the weight will shift. So let's have a go, please. I'll do it first facing you, and then I'll flip around to face the back. But we will start with our feet together. Why not? We lengthen up, chin down and back, release, relax, down, and calm down. Good, now we're going to lengthen the fingers down, feel all 10 fingers, and release belly, hips, knees. Okay, so let's take, I'm going to do mirror for you. Let's take the right hand to waist and the left hand extending forwards and step open. But we're doing yang style, so we turn the palm to face in. Okay, so we're going to turn and notice where your weight is. Feed the weight across, and as you pass the center line, we open. Press down, palm faces in, feed the weight across and turn. Feed the weight across and turn. Press down, feed the weight across and turn. Feed the weight across and open. Press down, feed the weight across and turn. Keep going, please. So this is your single hand silk reeling in yang style. And I do so much Chen style silk reeling these days, but this feels really weird to me. I have to relearn it as if I'd never done it before, which is good. That's called the beginner's mind. It makes you think, it makes you feel. Good. So with yang style, the palm wants to face in until you open and press down, and you go straight back to face in again. There are different yang forms and there are different cloud hands within those forms, but for this one, this is how we do it. Good, let's change, please. Open, press down to face in, Good. So there's always this feeling of a force field between your body and your arms. Never just when you come down, just go into your body. You want to feel that little puffy force field holding you out. But don't manufacture it, just feel for it. Now, this kind of silk reeling can be incredibly useful if there's pain, if there is any issue going on within the body. Silk reeling can act as a kind of tonic, a soothing agent, but all things in moderation, so be careful. Sometimes your body won't want a lot. Sometimes the body just wants rest, and that's okay too. Good. Okay, so that's single hand on both sides. Let's close. Now let's have a little look at single hand and stepping. So if we come over to one side, and I'll do it with you, back view, we lengthen up, chin down and back, calming down. Fingers lengthen to the floor. We'll release belly, hips, knees. Right hand to waist. Left palm faces up. We step out and let's turn the palm to face in. Ready? And we start with the arm. And then we're going to add the step. Actually, we're going to do the other hand. Let's change arms. And now we're going to add the step. Ready? We step open and come in. Open and come in. Now we're going to change arms and change direction. Step open and come in. And rest. Well done. And just to finish off, let's go back to the movement of the form, which is both arms and stepping. And in the form, we only go to one side. But just for rounding it off nicely today, let's go to both sides. Are we ready? So we lengthen up. And let's just go from single whip to get us into it. Relax the shoulders so we feed the weight back and turn the toes in and open. Change arms, change weight and come in. So we'll look at that transition next week in more detail, the second transition But for now, let's focus on cloud hands. And change direction. And for the joy of it, let's do it again. Ready? Change direction. And change. Keep breathing. And rest. Take a breath. And relax. Down. Good job. So out of all the movements in the form, I find that cloud hands needs the most work. Transitions also need a lot of work, just because we tend to focus on the main steps and maybe don't spend so much time, just explain it and get on with it and then move on. But if you practice your cloud hands, you will notice your coordination, your general strength, your core, your fluidity, your feeling for the energy, the deeper understanding of what's going on. It all falls into place. As I often say to people, honestly, there are no secrets in Tai Chi. Yes, there is brilliant guidance that we can get from masters, and there are things that we might not have thought of, but actually the true secret of Tai Chi is practice. Practice what you've learned, and you will find yourself going into a deep level of ability. Sometimes, especially with standing practice, I'll give standing practice to students and say, go away and practice. And sometimes they do. And I'll see them come to class week after week, and there have been times I've actually been intimidated by my own students not doing their practice, just walking in through the door. I can tell they have been practicing because their energy is, it's rooted, it's powerful. The lower body is full of energy. They have a calmness and a presence that only arrives when someone is actually doing the work and doing standing practice. And you can tell that someone is good at Tai Chi before you've even seen them take a first step. I was quite shocked one day in training with one of the teachers from mainland Great Britain in one of our master classes. She came up to me and she said, oh, so are you a family student of the master? Meaning, am I an acolyte, someone who's been taken under his wing? And I was shocked. I was like, oh, so gosh, that means you think very highly of my practice. But she'd never seen me take a single step. And yet she recognized me as someone who does a lot of practice. And I don't actually do that much practice. I need to do more, but I do a lot of Tai Chi teaching it and doing it with my students. So I guess that stands for something. But I just went, no, I'm just a student of Jill's. And she went, oh, and she went, Jill's a good teacher. And I went, yes, she is. It was this strange moment that just, you know, like one goat knows another kind of thing, that you recognize when someone trains. You just know it, to see them, to see their stance, to see their energy. You can see, not literally see the energy, but you can just tell when someone practices. And that's the secret. Just take the work that we've done in class and practice. And it doesn't matter how much you practice, just practice. That's the thing. It's like nutrition. You know, if you have 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day, or 1 meal a day, you've still eaten. That'll keep you going. Whereas if you go with nothing for a week, you will remain basically a beginner. So there are beginners who have practiced Tai Chi for 30 or 40 years, but because they don't practice between classes, They never actually bring themselves up to that higher level. So have a wee play, folks. Every aspect that you practice is money in the bank. So even if it's just Wuji, even if it's standing practice, my goodness, if you do standing practice, you are building foundation. So thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry I've gone over a wee minute or two, so we'll salute. Happy practice. And if you don't manage to practice between classes, don't worry, you're still going to get some benefit. One meal a week is better than none. And one Tai Chi practice a week is certainly going to plant the seed of possibility for endless health to grow. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next time.